Hey everybody, that's the sound we like. Ass hits couch, man feels good. Mood immediately improves. How do you like them apples? Welcome back everybody for another edition of More Games. And something totally revolutionary today. Actually not really, we're just gonna do a good old-fashioned pickups video.
Oh, haven't had an old-fashioned in a long time.
Yeah, taking it back, old school. Because a lot of the games I've been featuring in this series as of late have mostly been like Switch games, and game collections like the Cowabunga collection or the Capcom Fighting collection, stuff like that. Today though, wanted to go back to the origins of the channel, so to speak. And just do a good old-fashioned retro games pickup video, because that was actually pretty much all I did when I first started this channel like a million years ago, was just do like these little pickups videos. So that's what we're doing today, because I go on a lot of game runs. Some of them get filmed, some of them do not. Even in the ones I do film, at the end of those videos, I do finds of the day, and I say, hey, these are the best games I found today, but I'll also mention that that day I picked up like 40 or 50 games. So this is a chance to take a look at some of the really good stuff I picked up recently that did not make it into any videos. So we're gonna start off, I broke it down into cartridge and disc games. So that's how we're gonna break it up today. So I got some Famicom games first, and right off the top, and all of this is boxed too, which is awesome. That's the great thing about if you really go out far, like you go to the Saitama's or Chiba or Kanagawa hard-offs and things like that, you never know what you're going to find. And there's usually always a section where you just find lots of boxed games, so that's always really cool. Even though they're a little more expensive, it's kind of worth it, because these boxes, box art, all that stuff is really cool. And for collector's purposes, it's a really good thing. But the first game up here is Crisis Force. And oh my goodness, this is an awesome game. If you've never heard of it, this is a shoot 'em up by Konami, probably one of the better shooters on the Famicom, if I'm being honest. It's really good. The only reason it didn't get a North American release, I'm guessing, is because it was released in 1991, and by that time Konami is probably really focusing on the SNES, but this is a really good game. It's a vertically scrolling shooter. Part of the gimmick is your ship can transform into 3 different forms, and it'll alter your attack patterns. So one form might have you firing a powerful shot directly in front of the ship, while the other ones let you fire off to the side or have a tail gun or something like that. So that's really cool. And another kind of cool gimmick to this game is that when you collect enough of these blue crystals, you turn into like this big phoenix kind of ship, and you're invincible, and you're just blasting the hell out of everything on screen. And if you're playing 2 players, your ships actually merge into one super badass, awesome ship. So both players get to be invincible for that little while. So that's really cool. And on top of that, really good visuals and a really good soundtrack as well. 8-bit Konami, so you know the soundtrack, the visuals, all that stuff was going to be on point. But this really is one of the better looking, sounding, and playing shoot 'em ups on the Famicom. And again, it was a Japan exclusive, so and it's also like a little bit uncommon, kind of hard to come by, so like a little bit more on the expensive side. But of course, if you're not a collector of physical media, as I am and many other people are, you can get a ROM or something, which I would suggest you do if you like the Konami shooters on the NES, or just shoot 'em ups in general. You'd really like this one, I'm willing to bet. Yeah, Crisis Force. Next up, one of my favorite Street Fighter games, oddly enough. That's not hyperbole, by the way. I really do like this game, even though it's not technically really a Street Fighter game, but it is Street Fighter 2010. And this is a game, I'm pretty sure I've said it probably a million times before, it gets kind of a bad rap, like it's not a good game. Partially because it's called Street Fighter 2010 and has nothing at all to do with Street Fighter, especially if you're playing the Japanese version. There's no connection to the actual Street Fighter series of fighting games at all, which is fine with me. I don't really care because this game is really fun. It's actually one of my favorite 8-bit action platformers. It's really difficult, I'll grant you that, but if you can get through the first couple of stages without dying and build your power-up to where you have a lot of range with your ranged attack and whatnot, it actually gets a lot easier from there. It's almost like playing a Gradius game or something like that, where when you're really powered up, you can blast through the stages, but you slip up and you die and you go back to your starting power. Then the game gets really, really difficult from then on out. So I think that's part of why this game gets the stigma that it does, is because it's really difficult, and it's also just goofy that it's called Street Fighter 2010. They could have called it anything else. They could have called it Cyber Assault or some junk like that, and that still would have been fine. But a really great game by Capcom. Again, I think one of their better NES games. They have a lot of really great NES games. The Mega Man series, obviously. And there's like, what is it, Codename Viper or whatever it is. That's really good. But this, I think, is one of their stronger games on the console. I like it a lot. Again, no hyperbole. Great graphics, great sound design, like a really good soundtrack on here, and very fun, high-intensity, high-speed, action-packed gameplay. It's just really difficult, and it can certainly kick your ass, but it's a lot of fun. If you've never played it because you've heard bad things about it, forget all that stuff. Play this game because it's really, really good. Street Fighter 2010. Next up, some Super Famicom goodness. I got a game here, and you gotta love that box art. This is Contra Spirits. And what is Contra Spirits? It's just Contra 3, the Alien Wars, but in Japan it's called Contra Spirits, which is also like a pretty cool name. I don't know, Contra Spirits. What is a Contra anyway? I forget. Anyway, this game is awesome. One of the classic top 10 SNES games on a lot of people's top 10 lists, at least. Really good. One of these stronger, like, early Konami games on the SNES. Between this and Super Castlevania 4 and Turtles in Time and Sunset Riders, they were just really killing it on the SNES between like 1991 and 93. This game is great, 1-player or 2-player, just run and gun. I'm pretty sure everybody's played Contra 3 by now. But if you haven't, you're missing out on one of the best run-and-gun games ever made. Again, high-intensity gameplay, difficult gameplay. You can turn the difficulty down if you really want to. But I think the fun of the Contra games is kind of in the difficulty. Same thing with like Street Fighter 2010. The fun and the gratification is in the challenge and like overcoming the challenge. But really fun, really great graphics, really great sound design. Crazy, awesome boss designs like giant Terminators that breathe fire at you and big turtle monsters like Gamera. All that stuff is really cool. Yeah, this is, I would say, I'd put this in my top 10 SNES games just because it's like the quintessential run-and-gun action game of the 16-bit era. There are a bunch that came after it, and especially like carrying on from that, games like Metal Slug and what have you, the Turrican games as well. And future Contra games, which, this is me, this might be like a controversial thing, I don't know. I don't think it is. I think this is peak Contra. This is as good as it ever was, and it was never better after this. And peak run and gun, maybe. Like my favorite run and gun game of all time, really, is Metal Slug 3, but a lot of why I like that game is just because of like the craziness of it all. The zombies and the elephants with lasers coming out of their trunks and things like that. But when it comes to just like solid gameplay, I don't know, I think Contra 3 might be like my all-time favorite run and gun, just based purely on gameplay. Take out all the crazy stuff from Metal Slug 3 And I don't know, maybe it just doesn't play quite as smoothly as Contra 3 does, but this game is amazing. Yeah, and if you didn't know, Contra 3 The Alien Wars in Japan is called Contra Spirits. Pretty cool, but yeah, one of the best run and gun games, one of the best two-player action games ever, Contra Spirits.
Super Famicom アクションの頂点コントラスピリッツ
Next up, another classic action game on the Super Famicom and SNES. Not by Konami though, this one by Capcom. It's an awesome game. It's Magic Sword. And I love this game. I think I played this game initially in like 1992 or 93. It was one of the earlier SNES games that I ever got a chance to play. And between this and like Mega Man X and Street Fighter 2, of course, these are some of the main reasons why I became such a big Capcom fan growing up. This game's so simple but so fun. You're just this cool barbarian character. He's like a blonde Conan the Barbarian. Fabio. You're playing as Fabio. Fabio with a sword and shield. But you just walk through each stage, kill a bunch of monsters, collect a bunch of gold for like point power-ups and things like that. And pick up additional, like, you know, stronger weapons like shields and stronger swords and stuff at the end of the stages when you beat bosses. But what's really cool is that you also collect keys, and with the keys you can unlock doors, and behind those doors are helper characters that you can have come along to help you out. And they have all kinds. They have lizardmen and barbarians and wizards and a ninja and like an Amazon chick with a crossbow. So there's a bunch of different characters that can help you out. And if you stick with the same character for a long time, they can level up along with you and their attacks get more powerful. So that's really cool, but essentially just a straightforward action game. Kill a bunch of bad guys, and you know, there's all kinds of like monsters and reanimated skeletons and evil wizards and demons and all that cool stuff. Can't get enough of that kind of stuff. Growing up, I was a big fan of things like Conan the Barbarian and Beastmaster. Those were some of my favorite movies as a kid. I've always had a big love for swords and sorcery kind of stuff. So when I started to get those, you know, the kind of things I liked in those movies, I started to get them in my video games. I was very happy again. That's why Magic Sword, along with some of those other classics, made me a big Capcom fan at the time. So they were giving me what I wanted. Mega Man X was giving me the cool futuristic robots fighting and battling it out. Street Fighter was kind of giving me what I liked from movies, like all the Jean-Claude Van Damme movies I liked as a kid, like Bloodsport and things like that. I was kind of getting that feel out of Street Fighter 2. Being a kid like 6, 7 years old playing Street Fighter 2 and just imagining in my head that I'm this character going through this, like, I really didn't think of Bloodsport though. I thought about that movie Lionheart when I was playing Street Fighter 2. That was always kind of like my little kid fantasy. And then everything I liked from swords and sorcery, I was getting out of Magic Sword. So this is still a great game. You can't go wrong with that cover art, by the way. All the characters on the front looking very unimpressed, mind you. They all have kind of this hangdog, expressionless look on their face. But this game is awesome. You can get it on the Super Famicom or the SNES. If you've never played it before, you are doing yourself a disservice. This game is so awesome. What are you waiting for? It's great. It's Magic Sword. Next up, so that this first half isn't entirely Nintendo games, I got a Mega Drive game here, and a really good one. I would say low-key, because that's how we say that, right? Low-key, one of my favorite old-school arcade games, actually. This is Rainbow Islands Extra. And if you've never played Rainbow Islands, I believe it's like the sequel to Bubble Bobble, even though it doesn't play at all like Bubble Bobble, and you get the human versions of the little dragons from the Bubble Bobble games. I don't recall their names, but this game is just awesome. It's super simple in its premise. You start out at the bottom of the screen. You kind of have to work your way up, and the way you do that is you can just sort of shoot out rainbows, which is, you know, very cute. And you can walk up the rainbows, and you basically just build bridges with these rainbows. But the rainbows are also your attack to take out monsters. or even trap monsters. And you can also get power-ups where you can shoot out multiple rainbows at a time, so they come out like 2 and 3, and it kills monsters, and it gets you all kinds of point bonuses. And you can walk up the rainbows, but if you jump on the rainbows, they shatter like glass beneath you, which is pretty cool, like visual, like a shattering rainbow. I feel like that should be like, I don't know, the name of like a late 70s like prog rock band album or something, Shattering Rainbows. Or it could be the name of a rainbow album, who knows. Some good old Dio action. I'm really getting sidetracked. Anyway, this game, I like it a lot. I like old school arcade games like this for the simplicity of it. I do still like to go to some of the retro arcades around here to play stuff like, you know, Donkey Kong and Pac-Man, what have you. I am a simple man. I like simplistic games like this. So it's a lot of fun. Visually, also like really bright and colorful. Very cute looking game, as all of the kind of like puzzle bobble, bubble bobble games are. And great soundtrack as well, especially you can't go wrong with that Mega Drive rendition of Somewhere Over the Rainbow. Very fitting for this game, I might add. But yeah, these are really fun. This Rainbow Islands, I would say, if you've never played this game, if you have a love for old school arcade games, this is one you're definitely going to want to play. Yeah, one of my favorite old school Taito arcade games. And just one of my favorite kind of relaxing games, period. It is a very relaxing play. Gets a little bit more challenging as you go through, but never anything too intense. It always has a very leisurely, calm, cute kind of style to it. So it's a comfy game, as some people say. So it's awesome, and it's still really good on the Mega Drive. Rainbow Islands Extra. I like it a lot. So that's the halfway point, so I'm going to take a little bit of a break, maybe go get myself an adult beverage or something like that, and show you something pretty cool. So check this out, we'll be right back. Hello everybody, Future Jim here, just popping in to inform you on something. You might be noticing my very cool, very stylish Mad Panic Gaming t-shirt. If you'd like to get a fine garment such as this one, you can do so at kidshoryuken.myspreadshop.com, and you can also find a link down in the description. We've got lots of cool stuff over there. We've got t-shirts, and we've got hoodies, we've got coffee mugs, we've got hats, we've got some very cool stickers as well. All of the channel art that we use here on the channel, it's all over this stuff. It's merchandising. We put the channel's name on everything. So if you are so inclined, if you're just a huge, obsessive Mad Panic Gaming fan, and you would like to show your pride as a citizen of the Mad Panic planet, just like me, then head on over to kidshoryuken.myspreadshop.com and get yourself some of this kick-ass gear. And with that being said, back to your regularly scheduled programming. I said regularly. I said it finally. That's a tough word to say. Back to the video.
It's like people only do things because they get paid. And that's just really sad.
And we're back. All right, everybody. And that adult beverage I was talking about. Water, actually. I'm not the type, you know. I've got my vices, but I'm not exactly a day drinker these days. A little too old for that, I don't mind telling you. Anyway, before we move on, check out these disc-based games. Would like to invite everybody to let me know down in the comments what are some games you picked up recently, whether they be retro or modern games, because I'd like to know, because I pick up all of these retro games while on my game hunts, mostly to send them out to other people. I don't hang on to this stuff too terribly long, unless it's something I just really, really want to have in my collection, which is much, much smaller now. I don't think I've ever addressed this before on the channel, but I actually sold off most of my collection over the past few years. So if something is really special, I'll hang on to it, but for the most part, I'll send it out. And these days, again, as I said, as evidenced by the games I've been featuring in this show, and the games I've mostly been featuring in my game reviews as of late, barring the guest collaboration reviews, which are always retro games, I've just been playing a lot of Switch games lately. So it is fun to go back to my roots again, so to speak. So yeah, let me know down in the comments, what games have you been picking up and playing recently? And that being said, let's move on to some more awesome games. First up, never really seen this version of this game before. It is Super Light 1500 series. So I guess when these were initially sold, they were 1500 yen. Here in Japan, which is exceptionally cheap, but this is Strikers 1945-2. And this is one of my favorite shoot-'em-ups, at least from the 90s. I really like this game. I like the Strikers series in general, basically anything by Tkyo. If it's a shoot-'em-up, I was always going to like it, but they're really good. You get a bunch of different World War II planes to choose from, and they all have different weapons and super bombs and special attacks and all that cool stuff. And eventually you end up fighting all kinds of like giant machines and robots and aliens, and that's really cool. So I've always liked this series, and I've played these mostly on the Sega Saturn and in the arcade, of course. But they were ported to the PS1, and they're done pretty well. Again, this was, let's see if I can find a release date for this, because this was published by Success. And Success, they did the Cotton games and all that, but I guess they wanted to publish these on the PS1. So 1998. So I'm just guessing, right, maybe in 1998, this was not the most popular style of game at the time. So you could just, put it in a quick, cheap package. You can see the cover here. All of these simple or whatever 1500 series, they all would have had the same plain white cover on the manual. So I'm guessing, yeah, this just wasn't like a hot seller in 1998, so it was super cheap. I think I still paid about 1,500 yen for this at a book off, I think, in Tachikawa. But a great game. Love the whole series, and again, it plays pretty good on the PS1. So really awesome. Strikers 1945-2. Next up, another favorite of mine from the 90s, a favorite series. For me, very, one of those series of games really synonymous with the PS1 for me back in the day. Here in Japan, it's called Abe A Go Go, which it was released as Oddworld Abe's Odyssey in North America. And Abe's Exodus was also released in Japan, but it's called Abe 99. And it got a fairly limited release, so it's one of the more expensive PS1 games you'll ever come across. But Abe A Go Go, aka Abe's Odyssey, always liked these games. As a kid, I was a big fan of action platformers and things like that. But when I played this, this was really the first kind of game like this that I had played at the time. I want to say I was 12 years old, maybe. But it was more of a puzzle platformer. You have to figure out how to get your Mudakin buddies to the exit of an area without getting them all killed, which I'll admit, when I first played this game, I found it funny when they got killed, and I wasn't too terribly good at the game either at the time. So mostly I would just try to look out for my own neck, and then if the other Mudakins got killed, I didn't really care so much. But it is cool, and you can possess enemy characters and sort of weird wild animal creatures that live in Oddworld. But the whole point is to save 99 of your Mudakin allies, and the game keeps track of how many have escaped, how many are still in captivity, and how many have died, and depending on how you perform, the ending can change. I've never saved all 99 Mudakins. I don't think I've ever even come close. Again, like I said, when I first played this game, I wasn't very good at it. I'm pretty sure I'm still not very good at it. I never really got much better at it, but that didn't change the fact that I've always loved this game. And so to have it again, however brief, on the PS1 is really cool. Unless somebody specifically asked for it, I doubt I'm ever going to get a copy of Abe 99, just because the game is really expensive. And so I do like Abe's Exodus. I actually prefer Abe's Exodus over Abe's Odyssey, but I'm not made of money. Unfortunately, I wish I was. I just pick money off myself and go buy obscure Oddworld games. And this is a series that I continue to like. even later on down the road with Munch's Odyssey and Stranger's Wrath and Munch's Odyssey. I actually still need to pick those up, speaking of, on the Switch, just to play through those again, because they're bundled together and in a nice affordable single package. So that's something that's right up my alley. But Abe A Go Go, aka Abe's Odyssey, great game. If you've never played any of these older Oddworld games, I would suggest you do, especially if you like games that'll kind of rack your brain a little bit. Puzzle platformers, if you will. But it's great. Abe A Go Go, aka Abe's Odyssey. Next up is another game in a series that was, for me as a kid, synonymous with the PS1. This was actually one of my favorite PS1 games to play through back in the day, even though in retrospect, going back and replaying it now, it doesn't play quite as great as it felt like it did when I was 12 years old. But this is Tenchu, aka Tenchu the Stealth Assassins. I remember getting so excited for this game, reading about it in magazines back in the day, because it was like, wow, you're a ninja and you sneak around and you like slit people's throats and you can use ninja magic and items, all this cool stuff. I was a big like enthusiast for stuff like that when I was a kid. Anything with like ninjas or martial arts, anything to that effect. As a kid, I was a big fan of American Ninja, like that whole series. But I remember reading an interview with the director of this game saying he wanted to make a ninja game that was more what he thought of as being like ninja-y. You know, he was like, all the ninja games are like Shinobi and Ninja Gaiden, and you run around and you blow stuff up and you're, you know, it's straight action. He's like, no, ninjas, right? They're supposed to be sneaky and stealthy. So I want to make these games where you sneak around as a ninja and slit throats. And I was like, wow, that sounds pretty cool. So as a kid, I loved this game, and I was so incredibly good at these games when I was a kid. I could get Grandmaster on all the stages and you know, unlock all the cool bonus items. The chameleon spell was my favorite because you could disguise yourself as an enemy, or even like a pedestrian, like not a pedestrian, but like an innocent, you know. And it's kind of funny that, yeah, this random innocent person, a little lady in a kimono or something, is running around with this big ninja sword. Nobody seems to notice. And then you can like just leisurely kill bad guys because you're in your chameleon form. In fact, I would put in a code to get like all the items, like 99 of everything. And then I would just load up on chameleon spells and just run around the stage and just kill all the bad guys. That's how much I love this game. After I had beaten it to death and gotten Grandmaster on everything, I would still just run through the stages just for the fun of killing all the NPCs. But this first one especially, I enjoyed a lot. The second Tenchu wasn't so great in my opinion, because they included, I mean, it was good at the fact that it was like a deeper story, and it was a bigger game with more stages and more playable characters and all that, and you got a cool backstory for Rikimaru and Ayame. But part of what really drove me crazy about it was that when tallying your score, it incorporated how many steps you took in the game. Like if you took too many steps, you couldn't get Grandmaster, which I thought was awful, because I wanted to explore the stages, find hidden items, kill all the bad guys, and all that kind of stuff. It felt like I was being punished for it. So Tenchu 2 really burned me in that way. The original Tenchu was a big time favorite of mine on the PS1. If you've never played it, I would say go back and give it a try. Maybe temper your expectations, because as I said, playing through it again as an adult, I can still really burn through this game and kill all the enemies and get Grandmasters and everything. It's like riding a bike, but it's lost some of its luster, I'll say that much. But still, these games were awesome. I also liked the PS2 Tenchu games. I liked Tenchu 0 on the Xbox 360. Create your own ninja. I always thought that was pretty fun. But yeah, this first game in the series, pretty classic. One of my absolute favorite PS1 games, despite all of its shortcomings. I just can't overlook all the fun I had with it as a kid, and still a pretty cool game to this day. It is Tenchu.
You are the wind that moves through the air unseen. You are the darkness that goes unnoticed in the night. You are the lightning that strikes unannounced. You are the ninja, Rikimaru. You are the ninja who kills by stealth. You are the ninja who cannot be stopped.
You're the ninja needs to sneak up on some of that dog poop in the backyard.
Tenchu stealth assassins live by honor, kill by stealth.
Next up, a little Dreamcast action for you. This game, I think, called Dynamite Cop in North America. Here in Japan, Dynamite Deka 2. Obviously the sequel to the original Dynamite Deka, which was called Die Hard Arcade in North America. They just branded it as a Die Hard game, even though it's a beat 'em up, and I don't recall John McClane being that good at beating people up. He was, more of a sneak around kind of guy, foil the bad guy's plot, not necessarily just run up to the bad guy and punch the hell out of him. That's what you did in Dynamite Deka, and that's what you do in Dynamite Deka 2. These games are fun. They're just straight up beat 'em ups, but there's like stuff all around each stage, so you can pick up basically anything and attack bad guys with it. You get melee weapons, you get guns, you get all kinds of stuff. You end up fighting a giant octopus at some point. Like, the whole premise of the game is that you go, there's like a cruise ship that's been taken hostage, and I think the president's daughter or something. It's very cliched, but what do you want? That's kind of the reason you play this, is for the goofiness of it. So you got all these special forces agents. You go onto the cruise ship and you beat the hell out of everyone, and you shoot them and you hit them with frozen fish, and you save the president's daughter. And that's all there is to that. So it's fun, but it's really wacky. Kind of reminds me, on the PlayStation, we had Fighting Force, which I liked Fighting Force a lot because I had already been a beat-em-up fan as a kid. And so here's a 3D beat-em-up where you can just pick up anything within arm's reach and level a bad guy with it. And plus you get guns. Guns in a beat-em-up always felt like cheating, but it's guns. Come on, it's really cool. So that's what you get in Dynamite Deka 2. Beat the hell out of a lot of enemies with whatever you can get your hands on, and just enjoy the crappy voice acting and the weird, wacky nature of it all. It's a lot of fun, and I would say that this is sort of an era, like games like this and Crazy Taxi and House of the Dead. Sega was just hitting us with all these really great arcade games that translated very, very well to the Dreamcast. And that's what you can say about this one, Dynamite Deka 2, aka Dynamite Cop. If you've never played it before, you're a fool. Play this game immediately. And last but not least, or maybe least, I don't know, depending on your opinion of this game, definitely the most expensive game to be featured in the video today, though. I've got it with me for a little while, so I've been having some fun with it, but it's going to be off to some lucky boy or girl out there in the world. It is Final Fight Revenge. And if you've never heard of this game, probably a couple of reasons for that. One is that it was only ever released in Japan on the Sega Saturn. And two is that it is lauded as being a very bad game, which I can say that it's not as bad as some people might have you believe. As a fighting game, it's not terribly good. Just to look at it, you might be reminded of Street Fighter EX plus Alpha, because it is kind of the same. It still plays as more of like a 2D fighter, but you got 3D characters, but you can like sidestep and what have you. But the appeal of this game is that it's a 3D fighter with a bunch of characters from Final Fight. So you got your main good guys, you got Cody, Hager, and Guy, but you also get a bunch of bad guys like Poison and Damned and Sodom, and Rolento is in here, and Rolento can actually transform into an attack helicopter. and you shoot people down. It's an attack helicopter. Actually, that's something about this game. It's really wacky, and all of the characters have some kind of crazy super attacks like that. I think Eddie E can actually turn into a police car, and then you run over your opponent as a police car. Eddie is not a good cop. Eddie is he's a bad cop. He's one of the bad seeds there. But so as a fighting game, it's not very good, but just as like a game, as an experience, it's pretty cool just because like how silly it is. It is still a pretty fun game, and there are weapons and things scattered around the stages because it is a Final Fight game, and part of the appeal of Final Fight, again, like with Dynamite Deka 2 and Fighting Force and things like that, it's a beat 'em up, so there's stuff lying around that you can pick up to attack your opponent with. So in this game, there are melee weapons to make use of, but you can also get like machine guns and rocket launchers and just all kinds of stuff. So this is a game that feels like when whoever at Capcom was designing it, they were just like having fun. They were like, all right, let's give them some rocket launchers. Let's make them turn into cop cars and attack helicopters. Let's make a zombie Belger from the original game. But he's got like Dalzim stretchy arms, and let's make him do the Michael Jackson Thriller dance in the credits. It's just goofy. So while it's not a very good game, it is still pretty fun, and just like the novelty of it kind of gives it an appeal. The bad thing though is it's an expensive game. It's a really rare game. In fact, I think this was the last like officially licensed release for the Sega Saturn. It was released in 1999, so Sega has already moved on to the Dreamcast at that point, not really putting out stuff for the Saturn anymore, but then here comes Final Fight Revenge, and it takes the 4 MB RAM cart as well. So yeah, this game gets a bad rap for being really bad. I think it's just regular bad. It's not really bad. It's not like god-awful, the worst game I've ever played. It's just kind of goofy. It's mediocre as a fighting game, but kind of the wackiness and the license kind of put it over the top a little bit. But anyway, it's not as bad as you might think, but not as good as you might hope. It's Final Fight Revenge.
Strike it!
You're already dead.
Cody wins!
There's a violent storm rising, says the back of the case there. All right, so that's it, everyone. That is 10 games, retro games I picked up recently. Told you, just a good old-fashioned pickups video. No gimmicks, no bells and whistles. Let's just talk about some awesome games. And you have to excuse me because I'm filming this in my apartment in late July with the AC turned off. Was not the best idea on my part. But anyway, thanks for watching, everyone. Let me know what you thought of any of the games I featured in this video. And again, feel free to let me know down in the comments, are there some games you picked up recently, whether they be retro, whether they be modern, whatever the case may be. Is there something you picked up recently that you're playing and that you are enjoying, or something that you would recommend that I play? Because I think by now, most of the viewers of this channel, they know my tastes. I like simple stuff. I like shoot 'em ups. I like beat 'em ups, action platformers, fighters, arcade style stuff. That's the way to go for me. So anyway, again, thanks for watching, everyone. Hope you enjoyed the video. If you're new to the channel, welcome aboard. If you've been here a while, thanks for sticking around. I appreciate you. I appreciate all of you. And until next time, take care, everybody, and I'll see you then. Goodbye.